There's one thing that separates homes that feel clean and organized from homes that feel overwhelming and messy, and that's visual clutter. But very few people know how to control their clutter, so they end up living with it for years. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 design principles that instantly make your home look and feel calmer without disrupting your life. And by the end, you'll be able to walk into any room in your home and immediately spot what's throwing it off and how to fix it. So the first way to reduce visual clutter in your home is to edit and group your decor. Because even beautiful items can overwhelm a room when they're scattered everywhere. And the more your eye jumps between objects, the busier your space feels. And that's why grouping and editing those objects creates breathing room so that the important pieces actually get a chance to stand out. So let's look at a few examples of what not to do, okay? So here, the mantle is filled with small frames, figurines, candles, all this sort of stuff, and there's no visual break. And so it makes it hard for the eye to focus on any one feature. Now here, you may not think this one looks so bad, but with these different art sizes and the overlapping pieces, in front of each other, it just creates a messy layered effect. And so instead of feeling collected, the arrangement just feels cramped and a little chaotic. And then this console is completely covered with frames, boxes, and baskets. And with no empty space, the whole setup feels heavy and just closed in. But now let's look at some better examples. So this room here has reduced the visual clutter by making every element intentional and leaving plenty of negative space. And the mantle's holding just a few items, right? A couple ceramics, books with a small bowl on top, and the vase with the plant inside on the right side. And so this creates this cohesive focal point that allows the eye to rest and also move around the room. Now here on this console table, it's the same idea. A bowl on the left, some stacked books with another bowl in the center, and then a vase with a plant on the right side. Maybe you're starting to see a bit of a trend here, right? But the key is that there's not so much stuff stacked on here that you can't understand what's going on or you can't find something if you need to find it. Instead, by having these 3 groups, it just creates balance and allows the eye to move from one arrangement to the next, and also lets the natural materials and the surrounding space shine. And then here on this console table in the hallway, similar story again, right? Vase with flowers, this interesting kind of, wooden bowl on the right side. I think that's what that is. And then some more decorative objects in the middle. I think the key to point out here is that this is not a place where the people who live here are dropping all their stuff, right? They're not putting their bag or their keys, their wallet when they walk in the door here. This is a stylistic space. And if you want your home to look good like this, then you need to be able to maintain it as a stylistic space and not let all the clutter get in there. And if you can do that right and keep things well spaced and without too much junk on there, then the result is a look that feels deliberate, calm, and easy on the eyes instead of visually chaotic. But now let's talk a little bit about color, because you don't have to give up color in order to reduce visual clutter. The key is just to soften it. Okay, so when a room is filled with highly saturated colors that are all competing for your attention, the effect can be really overwhelming. But by choosing more muted tones or limiting the number of bold colors that you have in a single space, you can maintain the personality of the space while still making the room easier on your eyes. So let me show you a couple examples, all right? This living room here has these dark navy walls, the bright orange chairs, and some other patterned upholstery, plus this richly patterned rug in kind of a deep purple, all in the same space. And so all the different layers of strongly saturated colors and the competing patterns make the room feel heavy and visually busy. But now look at this living room, okay? Instead of stripping away color completely, the key is using muted tones of your favorite colors. Okay, so in this room, the palette still includes blues, reds, and yellows, similar colors to what we saw before, but they're just in lighter, more muted shades. And so this shift keeps the personality of the room alive, but it also makes it feel harmonious. Each piece gets to stand out without fighting for your attention, and the overall effect is just calming. But now let's look at a second example, okay? This kitchen here is using some very saturated yellow cabinets, this teal island, and a very busy backsplash all in the same place. And so all the high intensity colors and patterns are competing with each other in one space, which is creating a ton of visual stimulation. And I can't imagine wanting to spend much time in this kitchen. But again, you can still keep the colorful look. You just need to lower the intensity. So yes, you can have your vibrant kitchen. You just want to use softened, muted tones of those same colors. So here we've still got some yellows, blues, and greens, but those colors are dialed way down into gentler shades. So the space still has some spunk to it, but it also allows the patterns and details to shine without overwhelming the eye. Now, the third way to reduce visual clutter in your home is to find a balance between open and closed storage. So we all know kitchens see a lot of action, and it's really easy for your countertops and your shelves to get really busy. But if you have all open shelving, it leaves everything exposed, while having wall-to-wall closed cabinets can make the room feel boxy and pretty heavy. And so the goal is to combine both styles for a look that feels organized but still light and welcoming at the same time. So this kitchen here relies almost entirely on open shelving, which means that all the dishes, all the glassware, and all the pots and pans are exposed. And so even though these items are functional, having a constant mix of all these shapes and colors creates a really busy backdrop. And this kitchen is pretty much the same deal, right? We've got these overfilled open shelves with a mix of colors and shapes and sizes. It just creates a patchwork effect, and the lack of a visual break here makes it really hard for the eye to rest. But at the same time, in this kitchen with all closed cabinets, it hides the clutter, but it feels closed in and pretty heavy. And this unbroken wall of wooden doors makes the space darker and more enclosed. So the solution here, if you have the chance, is to mix open and closed storage to create balance in the kitchen. All right, so the solid cabinet doors hide the everyday clutter that you don't want to see, but having a few open shelves let you showcase a few select pieces. And this mix of open and closed will keep your kitchen practical without feeling overly boxed in, and it strikes a nice balance between function and personality. For your open display shelves, you want to keep them light and minimal so they add charm without overwhelming your space. And so floating or glass shelves with just a handful of curated items prevent your eye from getting lost in a jumble of different objects. And the result is that the kitchen feels styled, but it's still easy to live in. And I also suggest using a lighter cabinet design to avoid visual heaviness when you need closed storage across a big wall. So choosing a louvered, slatted, or glass front doors instead of solid heavy panels also helps to break up the mass and allow light to flow throughout the space. And all these subtle details make your kitchen feel brighter and more welcoming. But now let's talk about one of the worst offenders in anyone's home when it comes to clutter, and that is the entryway. Because, the front door is a place that works hard, right? It's where coats, shoes, bags, and everything else from the day just tends to land. And so without any kind of clear system, this entryway area can quickly get crowded and chaotic. And so the goal is to create storage that handles your daily traffic while still keeping the area visually calm and easy to move through. So how do you achieve this? Well, this entryway shows you how you can layer different types of storage in a single compact space to keep your visual clutter under control. The closed cabinets and drawers conceal the bulkier items like coats, bags, and any seasonal gear, and so the area always looks tidy. And just a few hooks are left exposed for your daily grab-and-go pieces like a hat, a scarf, or your jacket, but it eliminates all the clutter that comes with having so many hangers exposed. Now, one thing I think is really cool here is you can see above, they've got these open cubbies that are perfect for storing clothes in bins or baskets, and obviously the built-in bench doubles as hidden storage below. And so this combination of closed, open, and dual-purpose solutions makes the space practical and really easy to navigate, even in a high-traffic zone like your entryway. Now, the fifth way you can reduce visual clutter in your home is to streamline your feature walls. All right, so feature walls are meant to be a statement, but when every inch of a wall is packed with different items, it can quickly shift from eye-catching to overwhelming. An excess of mismatched shapes, competing focal points, and uneven spacing just pulls your eye in too many different directions and makes the room feel busier than it actually is. And so the goal is to design a wall that feels intentional and balanced, where every element has room to breathe. So here's how you want to think about this. First, a wall feels calmer when you keep the layout simple. And so choosing one large art piece or a small, evenly spaced grouping creates a clear focal point instead of letting a ton of different items compete for your attention. And of course, reducing visual clutter also means curating what's on display. And so a few well-coordinated pieces that share a similar color, shape, or some other kind of theme stand out so much more than a crowded mix. And by giving each item its necessary breathing room, the wall reads as open and deliberate. And remember, consistent spacing is what ties everything together. And so when frames, shelves, or other decorative elements line up with equal gaps, the negative space actually becomes part of the design. And this sort of uniformity helps the wall feel cohesive and transforms it from a patchwork into a polished statement. So now you know how to spot and fix visual clutter, and I've linked to a few related videos in the description that go even even deeper into creating spaces that feel effortlessly balanced. But here's the thing, reducing visual clutter is only the first step in building a beautiful home, and there's something that happens after you strip everything back, the layer of design that most people never reach, where your home doesn't just look better, it actually starts to feel better. So if you want to learn how to get from clean and calm to truly beautiful, you need to watch this video next, where I'll show you how to take everything you just learned and use it to completely transform the way your home feels. I'll see you there.